Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome in. There's a lot of people in already. That is super exciting because I scheduled this so last minute. So that's super exciting. I know you guys haven't seen me in a long time on a stream, so it's good to be here. I am finally feeling so much better after having our son Wesley, and he's 2 months old now, and I cannot even believe it. So, Will took dad duty tonight so that I could do this just because I was super excited about this movie. And I wanted to come on live because it's all in my head and it's fresh in my memory. So I wanted to do it while it was fresh. So thank you so much for taking your Friday night to be with us. If you have not seen the movie, there may be spoilers. There probably will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and you don't really care, then keep watching. But I will probably do spoilers throughout the entire stream. I'm hoping not to go too long, but again, super excited. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this movie. So I'm kind of going to start with a little introduction of the movie for those who don't know. So I use IMDb for that kind of stuff. So this is my full review of the Little Mermaid live action movie. Um, there is obviously a animated version of this movie. But this one just came out, not I think last weekend, it just came out. So let's pull up. All right. So of course, this movie features is about Ariel and Eric, Ursula, King Triton. And so it stars Halle Bailey as Ariel, which I really am gonna be honest. I thought that was a poor choice for casting going into this movie. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then Jonah King, I cannot say his middle name, so I'm not even going to try to butcher it. Jonah King as Eric, which again, seeing him in commercials, I was not convinced. I was like, okay, whatever. Because Eric to me is one of the most beautiful princes that we have, if beautiful is the right word. He's very pleasing to the eye, if a cartoon can be pleasing to the eye. And so I just didn't think that this guy was going to add up. And then we have Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, which was an amazing choice. I honestly, even before I saw this movie, I was like, that's it. She looks just like her. I mean, I thought she was going to do an amazing job. And then Javier Bardem is King Triton. I did not think he was a good choice going into this movie either. I really did not. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then, of course, David Diggs plays the voice of Sebastian. Jacob Tremblay plays the voice of Flounder. And Aquafina plays the voice of Scuttle. And you may know Aquafina from Raya and the Last Dragon. She played Sisu, the giant dragon. She has a very unique voice. Again, I was not convinced she was going to be good at Scuttle because Scuttle was originally a boy. In this movie, Scuttle was a girl, played by a girl. So I was not thoroughly convinced that this cast would do it for me. That was what I thought going in. I was like, this is going to be a train wreck. I don't know. I wanted to see it, but I was not convinced in this movie. Now, coming off of it, I just watched it this afternoon at 3:15 at our local AMC theater. I went to AMC because they had those super cool popcorn buckets that were they like lit up and everything. I really wanted one, but unfortunately our AMC was out of them. So I didn't get a popcorn bucket. I'm really sad about. But so that is where I went. So it's fresh on my memory, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. This movie was a 9 out of 10. 9.5, 9 out of 10. And that's coming from somebody who went into this thinking the casting was horrible. I just had no faith in this movie to do well at all. And I give it a 9 out of 10, 9.5. There were only a few parts where I was like, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So, moving on, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is originally known for the musical Hamilton, and he has done some other things for Disney. Will knows more of what he's written. He wrote You're Welcome for Moana that Dwayne The Rock Johnson sings, which I actually like that one. He also was heavily involved with Mary Poppins Returns, and I personally don't like his style of singing, I guess, or writing. It's not my style. It's a very fast paced, almost on the verge of rapping, but not quite a rap. And so it's hard to memorize his songs. I personally am not a fan of his. So when I heard that he wrote 3 new songs for this movie, I didn't really think that they were going to be good. And I kind of was right. Seeing this movie, they had the original songs except for Triton's Daughters, the way it starts in the animated. That was not in this. And Les Poissons was not in this, which, if you know Les Poissons, it's the Les Poissons, which is one of my favorite songs. So I was really sad that that wasn't in this movie. But the 3 songs that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote were, the first one was called Scuttlebutt. You just let that sink in for a little bit. Scuttlebutt. And that is obviously Aquafina is sing talking. I thought it was annoying. More on that later. For the First Time was the second song he wrote. And this is when Ariel finally becomes a human and she is above water. Okay, we're back. Sorry, our internet has been going in and out this last part of the day. So can you hear me? Everyone can hear me? Let us know. We're back. Okay. All right, perfect. All right, now let me get my notes back up. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for hanging in there. We have had some internet difficulties today. Okay, so the last that we were talking about was Scuttlebutt, and then For the First Time, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And for the first time was Ariel. She had become human already, and she was talking about all the things that she is going to experience and do as a human for the first time, including walking, dancing, running, all of these things. Now, if you're like me, think about it. She has now become human. She does not have a voice. And there's a song. So it's very, very awkward watching her do all these things. Her mouth isn't moving, but yet she's singing the song in the background. It was just weird. I think it was uncalled for. Honestly, I don't think it needed to be in the movie. But it was, and I think it was an okay song. It wasn't bad. Scuttlebutt, on the other hand, was my least favorite out of the three new ones. It was a fun song. It was just really awkward watching her do these things, but she's not actually talking. So it was definitely really, really weird, to say the least. And then the last song Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote for this was called Wild Uncharted Waters. And this is, hi Amy, welcome in. And this is after Ariel has saved Eric. And Eric is wondering about this girl. He wants to find this girl. So he sings about finding her basically in this song. I thought it was a little awkward too. If anything, it was more so his body movements were really awkward. To me, he looked uncomfortable while singing this song. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. He just, I don't know, his body posture and the way he was singing this song, it just looked really, really awkward to me. And so again, I don't think any of those three songs were necessary for this movie. I think it would have done fine, and it did do fine without them. I don't know. It was weird to me. They were awkward. I'm not a fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. He also produced this movie. I just don't really like his songs that he writes. Still, movie 9 out of 10 for me. Let me start off with kind of, if there are spoilers, if you're just joining in, spoilers. Stiff, yes, Movie Mania Nick. He looked stiff dancing, like it was uncomfortable and awkward for him. It was weird. Now, going into this movie too, Will made a really good point a couple weeks ago. Like, why do they call this a live action movie? It's not live action. There's still a huge amount of CGI. There's animals that it's just not a live action. And again, I loved Cinderella and I loved Beauty and the Beast as live action movies, but I wouldn't necessarily call them completely live action because there's still computer generated and animated things in it, especially with this one. It was heavily computer animated and probably a lot of green screen stuff. So I don't see how this is really live action. Now, with that being said, I still give it a 9 out of 10, and I think it's one of the best movies that Disney has done since Frozen, and since Encanto. I really do. I have not enjoyed any of their other live action films like The Lion King, or Aladdin. They were terrible to me. They didn't do it for me. But this one was really good. So, the first thing you see in this movie is just gentle ocean waves crashing, and then you see the Little Mermaid. And then you see a quote come up on the screen by Hans Christian Andersen. And if you know anything about Hans Christian Andersen, he has written a lot of fairy tales. For, Disney is not the first one to write these fairy tales. Hans Christian Andersen is best known for the Little Mermaid fairy tale. So the quote reads, "But a mermaid has no tears, and therefore she suffers so much." And that was from his original writing and fairy tale of the Little Mermaid. So that's how this movie started. And I thought it was a good quote, and it got me thinking. And it ties in the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie very well. And so I do love that they did that kind of nod to him in this. And so in the animated version, it starts off with the sisters singing their song, but Ariel's not there because she's finding treasure, like human treasure in the ocean. This song starts a little bit differently. It starts off kind of the same way. The sisters are supposed to sing a song, but for a different reason. We learn that it is called the Coral Moon Celebration, which happens once a year. The humans know about mermaids, mermen, and the mermaids, mermen know about humans, and they know that they don't get along. And this celebration is a coral moon celebration, and it's basically where the humans know that the mer people are going to sing a song to kind of lure them in a little bit, and kind of trick them. So, I mean, essentially so that they can kill them, I guess. It was a darker version of the Little Mermaid for sure. And so the humans know that's happening. Now, Eric, on the other hand, though, in this movie, he doesn't believe that the mer people are bad people. And and so that's kind of where that's kind of where he, falls in love with Ariel, I guess, because he doesn't have a view of the mer people being bad and evil like everyone else does on the human land. So this Coral Moon celebration is happening. And that's why all of the sisters gather together and they were going to sing. But the song never happened because Ariel didn't show up. And then it cuts to, her finding treasure, getting chased by a shark. Then she's like, "Oh no, my dad is gonna kill me," because she missed the song. And this is where we see Scuttle for the first time. I didn't mind Scuttle in this movie. I didn't mind Sebastian in this movie. I thought they were very good. However, Scuttle is underwater for the scene where Ariel brings him things to look at. And to me, that's just super awkward. And the reasoning behind it is because Ariel even says she is forbidden to go to the surface and she won't do it because her dad has forbid her to do so. So Scuttle kind of drops down into the water. They do the whole dingle hopper thing. But with her hair, the way that it is, it's not for brushing. They kind of put it in and loop it around. So that's kind of how they explain it in the movie. Because you notice her hair in the movie has little tiny dreads in it. So that she more so spaghetti noodles her hair with it, and that's kind of how it's explained in the movie that she does. So I thought it was really awkward having Scuttle underwater to do all of this stuff, and at the end she even says, "I need to go up and take a breath of air." It was weird. Birds aren't supposed to be in the water like that. They're not supposed to be under the water for that amount of time. So I did think that was really weird. They even said something about how they dive in the water to get food, but it was just weird. I don't know. To me, it was just really weird. And so there's a lot of talk going into this about the color of Halle Bailey's skin. And what a lot of people didn't see was her sisters and the color of their skin as well. And actually, when I saw it, I thought it was weird. I was like, why? I don't care. I don't care. I didn't care the color of her skin. Whatever. As long as she's good at the role, which I think she really was, I don't care. But when you see all of her sisters, you wonder, why are all of them different nationalities as well? That's explained in the movie, and I'm glad they explained it, because that was a question that I had going into this movie, and I think it was done really well. So Ariel's sisters all have origins and backstories to them as well, and it more fits, I guess, a mythology type story. So we see that in the beginning, Triton and Ursula are brother and sister. And we know that because they talk about it in the beginning of this movie, which is closely related to mythology. And it's also related to some other stories that have been told about the Little Mermaid. So the origins of all of these sisters, they even have different names as well. Let me pull up all their names so I can get it right. But the origins of them are all explained. So in the original animated version, we have Atina, Alana, Adela, Aquata, Aquata, Arista, Adriana, and those are and Ariel. Those are the sisters. Now, fast forward to this movie, we have Karina, and I'm not even going to try to say their the actresses' names, because I will totally butcher it. We have Karina, Indira, Mala, Perla, Tamika, Caspia, and of course Ariel. Now, the reason that they have different names and each of the sisters looks different is because in the movie, Triton even says something about them having to swim from great lengths to come together, because they have been in their parts of the ocean, in their separate parts of the ocean, monitoring that and watching out for their parts of the ocean. So Karina, fitting in with the original story of Ariel and Little Mermaid, her white hair represents the White Sea. So she is closely associated to Russia. So she would be guarding the oceans that's closest to Russia. Fast forward to Indira. She's the one with the dark colored hair, and she has pearls in the middle of her part. She is associated with the Indian Ocean. So she has South Asian roots, and she would guard that part of the Indian Ocean. And that's why she looks the way she does, and that she's dressed for that culture. Next is Mala. She's pink. She has a pink headband. She actually is an Alaskan native who migrated to East Asia, because the Alaskan natives have migrated to East Asia over thousands of years. And she represents the Bering Sea, which is connected to Alaska. So she has more of an Alaskan kind of feel to her. And you can kind of see it in her eyes there. So that's the part of the ocean that she represents. And then Perla, she's in like a pinkish, orangish kind of outfit with very long braided hair. She is given the Caribbean Sea, which would be Colombia, Puerto Rico, Cuba. And so she's more of a Spanish descent. So that's the part of the ocean that she would be guarding. Tamika, who I think is a beautiful actress, Sienna King played Tamika. She has big black curly hair. Her outfit is like a orange, yellow, pink, blue type. I mean, it's really pretty. It looks like feathers right here on her chest. That's Tamika, is the other sister. She would represent the Mediterranean Sea, which would be the countries and regions like North Africa, Western Asia, Southern Europe. So that is kind of her area of the ocean that she would represent. And then we have Caspia, who Has more of a pinkish color, very long pink blonde hair with a blue outfit on. She represents the Caspian Sea, which is associated with the Black Sea. So her countries would be Bulgaria, Romania, Russia, Caspia. Those would kind of be the area that she would be in. And then Ariel, who's played by Halle Bailey, her hair is red, which would represent the Red Sea. So if you look back, these are kind of why they look different. And it's explained not that great in detail in the movie. I did a little bit of research once I found out they have their own parts of the ocean and they come back together for this festival that they sing at. The Coral Moon celebration. So that's kind of why I looked that up, because I was very, very interested in it and I wanted to know more about their origin stories. And I thought it was really interesting. And they did a really good job representing those cultures that they come from in the ocean. So if you didn't know, that was a really fun thing for me to look up. And I really enjoyed that. It was very interesting to me. All right. So moving on, the next thing that we see, which this is probably very obvious for a lot of people, but the next thing we see is that King Triton hates humans so much because they killed his wife, which we don't hear what his wife's name is in this movie, but according to Greek mythology, it would be Queen Athena is her name. And so we King Triton just hates all humans because of something one human did, and that's kind of why they have this rivalry and they stay apart from each other. And so it moves on um from that into Ariel seeing Prince Eric on the ship for the celebration and his birthday. It's still his birthday. There's still what's his name? Gringsby, something like that. Um, I don't know how you spell it, but he did a really good job too playing that role as well. He very much sounded like the original voice. I'm trying to make sure I get his name right. Grimsby, Sir Grimsby, played by Art Malik. Grimsby, I think he did a wonderful Grimsby in the movie, actually. He had the same sound, kind of the same look. And so I thought he did a really good job with that. And I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised to see Grimsby in this movie. So, we see Ariel. She sees Prince Eric for the first time, and actually Max is in it too, the dog Max, which I think is so cute. That dog was really cute in the movie as well. So it moves on from there to obviously the Under the Sea song, which I think that was David Diggs and David Diggs, who played Sebastian, sang this song, and then Ariel had like tiny little pieces that she sang in this song as well. I think that they did a really good job. The only thing that I have to say while watching this movie, it wasn't as aesthetically pleasing to watch during this song as it is in the animated version. But honestly, they did a really good job of portraying the ocean the way it is. The ocean deep down is a very dark place. So I mean, they did colorful fish where colorful fish were needed. But as the Under the Sea song got going, it got more aesthetically pleasing. Towards the end, it was the full out fish, turtles, dolphins, everyone involved in the song. I just think it could have been more aesthetically pleasing the entire time. But that's the only thing I would say about that I thought was weird. And then we meet Ursula on and off throughout this movie, but of course, after they sing Under the Sea, her two little, I don't even know what their names are. The little, I don't know, eels come up and Will knows their names, but I don't think that's their names in the live action, to be honest. So they come up and we see Ursula talking to Ariel, and that's kind of where she lures Ariel in. And I will say 100%, I love Melissa McCarthy. I have loved her since Gilmore Girls. I I just love her. I think she's hilarious. I think she can do pretty much anything she sets her mind to. She is just so funny, and I think she was perfect for this role. They did her makeup, her outfit, her hair. It was just beautiful in this movie. So that's kind of where we see that. The only difference in this part is that instead of signing a scroll, Ariel pulls a scale off of her tail and gives it to Ursula, and they're marked by blood. So their pact is more marked by blood than a signature. But I thought the song was great. Everything she did was really great in this song. And so then that's when Ariel goes above, and that is when she sings her For the First Time song. And we move on a little bit. Eric thinks that she's the one that was singing to him, obviously, but then he realizes, oh, she doesn't have a voice, so it must not be her, but he still allows her to stay there. And we also learn that Prince Eric in this movie is adopted by the king and queen. We only ever see the queen in the movie, never the king. So we learned that Prince Eric is actually adopted. And so he wasn't born into this life. He was more so forced into it because he was found on the beach by the queen and king because of a shipwreck, and they decided to raise him as their own. So that we learned that as well in this. And so he thinks that she's the one that saved him, and he kind of goes back and forth. He still has those, you can tell he has those feelings for her. So we see them go on their typical, stroll around the town like you would in the animated version. And before that, though, this part was really beautiful to me. So in the live action, Ariel's kind of walking around the palace, the castle, whatever you want to call it, and she stumbles into a room, and it's filled with all of these magical objects, but they're from the sea. They're from underwater. Like there's a Little Mermaid there, their Little Mermaid statue, there's rocks and all kinds of things from the sea. And so Eric stumbles in the room while Ariel's kind of looking around this room. And I just think it's really awesome. And it's a really cool scene because we know that she has human things in her underwater cave. Well, he has ocean related objects in his room in this house. And so they bond, even though she can't speak to him, she is still teaching him things about the sea, and he is teaching her things about the land. And so I thought that was a really cool part. They bonded over that, and you could see that's when they were like, oh, okay, we kind of like each other. And then the next day is when they go on their stroll through town in the horse and buggy. And then another really cool song is a really cool part of this movie is that during all of this time that they're on land and they're spending time with each other, they go to a beachside, I don't know, like, what do you want to call it? A marketplace, I guess. And it has a very Jamaican kind of feel to it. And they start singing and dancing, and you see Jodie Benson, who makes an appearance in this movie, who was the original voice of Ariel. So I thought that was very cool. I don't know if anyone in the theater knew that that was her or even knew anything at all about that, but I caught on. They cut to her and then cut to her again. So it was really cool to see her in this movie. And then that is kind of when Scuttle and Sebastian, they kind of realize we've got to get this kiss moving, because in this movie, Ariel doesn't know that she has to be kissed in those 3 days time. So that's what was interesting about the spell Ursula did in this movie was she had to get kissed, but Ariel didn't know she had to get kissed. And even when they brought it up, she still didn't know. It was like it went in one ear and out the other. So they worked together to kind of get them in the little boat on the lake, and they sing Kiss the Girl. They do change the lyrics. I don't think it was necessary, but they changed them, and honestly, it wasn't terrible. It still flows. It works fine in the movie. This part was very visually stunning with the fish, with the water going over the boat. It was a very cute part of the movie, just like it was in the animated version. And you can tell they almost kiss, but it's the same thing. Then what Will said their names, Flopsum and Jetsam, push the boat over. And so they don't get to kiss. And then that's when Ursula is like, oh, it was so close. I've got to do something. And that's when she becomes Vanessa. And so we kind of go into Vanessa. And honestly, I thought the actress who played Vanessa, Jessica Alexander is her name. I don't really know anything else she's ever been in. But she actually did a really good job with Vanessa. She had a very good look to her, voice to her. She had a very good feel about her. And she did a really good job as Vanessa. So that's kind of where we see that. And then we speed it up a little bit, and, same thing like in the animated version. Ursula's enchanted spell reels Eric in. And in this one, though, he struggles with it. He's like, I kind of want to marry her, but I don't know why I want to marry her. Like, it's really weird for me to feel this way. And so we see, this is when Scuttle comes in and sings the song Scuttlebutt. And the reason Scuttlebutt is kind of like, it's the dish. It's what's happening. Like, I heard she's getting married, Prince Eric's gonna propose, blah, 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 blah. And so, of course, they think it's Ariel that's getting proposed to. And so that follows the movie pretty well, except the Scuttlebutt song. I don't think it was necessary, but it's there. It could have been skipped over. I don't think it's as bad in the movie. It fits more when you're watching the whole movie than it does when you're just listening to the song on Spotify or something. And so moving on from that, that's when they tell Ariel, hey, like, we know it's Ursula. We saw her in the mirror. Go get your prince. So she does. She grabs, obviously, like she does in the animated version, she grabs the little seashell off of Ursula's neck and she breaks it. And that's when she gets her voice back. Everything is basically the same after that. But we see King Triton trade himself for his daughter's freedom. And then Ursula, I will say Ursula, when she turns really big, it's extremely scary. If your kid is scared of that in the animated, they will 122,000% be scared of it in the live action, because it was a lot. It was a little frightening. And so all of that's relatively the same until we skip to the very end. The wedding was a little bit different. We didn't see the wedding at all. And King Triton wasn't there, but we see Eric and Ariel are getting in a boat, and they're going to take off for these grand adventures they want to have together. And this is where we see King Triton come from the water, and this is where that super awesome quote that I had, the quote that it was at the beginning that said, but a mermaid has no tears and therefore she suffers no more. Suffers so much more, sorry. So at the end, we see King Triton kiss his daughter goodbye, and we see a tear roll down her cheek. And I thought that was a really, really good tie-in to that quote at the beginning where she's not suffering anymore. She's a human. She's the way she wants to be, the way she wants to live her life. And her dad knows it. Her sisters know it. And as Eric and Ariel are in the boat and they're going into the ocean for their adventure, you kind of see the humans and the mer people come together, and they realize, like, we're not enemies anymore just because of one person's actions. And so again, it was very aesthetically pleasing in most areas. The acting was actually very good. I was very pleasantly surprised by it because going into this, I had no hopes for it to be good. I did not, I don't know. I kind of wanted to see what people said before I went and saw it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad though that I didn't take Wyatt because I see you know, a lot of these that Will is posting stuff in the chat right now about how long it was. That is, I've heard a lot of parents say it was too long for their kids to sit through, and it was more realistic. I mean, it was a little bit more dramatic and scary, seeing it, you know, in real time, I guess, like seeing real humans and um so yeah, it was too long for kids, and I've had several people say that. I agree, it was a little too long for kids. I think Wyatt would have checked out an hour into it, especially since Wyatt isn't like a huge fan of The Little Mermaid. Like he'll watch it, but he's not a huge fan of Little Mermaid. Yes, Tina, it's yeah, it looks yeah, it is more real. I mean, even Beauty and the Beast, which Wyatt does watch, but even at the end of Beauty and the Beast where Gaston is basically killed, even that part is more scary and dramatic than the cartoon version just because it is live action. It looks real to kids. Will said per IMDb, the animated version was an hour and 23 minutes. This version is 2 hours and 15 minutes. And like I said, though, I think those 3 songs that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote could have been cut out, honestly, and that took some time. So it was a little bit long. I don't know. You'd know your kids better than me, but I personally am glad I did not take Wyatt. Overall, it was a really good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know a lot of people had their doubts, and I even did too when you know, some of these articles were coming out about how much money it would make this weekend. I thought there's no way. But again, it was a really good movie. I would see it again for sure. I know a lot of you are just going to wait for it to come on Disney Plus, Will included. But again, really good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. If you have smaller children, I'd watch it first before going to see it. I mean, there was nothing appropriate. There was no cursing, nothing like that. But other than that, it's just the length of the movie, and Ursula is a tad bit scarier. But again, um, most of the underwater scenes in the CGI, some of the scenes with the characters, especially the end fighting scene. See, I didn't think they looked bad. I just thought they kind of looked. Now, this is one thing I do want to mention that was kind of awkward. In the movie, I mean, we're humans. These actors are humans. They're not mermaids. We don't swim around with tails on us all the time. I will say it was very uncomfortable to watch some of their motions in the ocean swimming about. Ariel did a lot of these weird where she was sitting down and she would do this to swim, and it literally looked like she was treading water. It was very uncomfortable to watch sometimes. Just obviously the animated version, they had fluid movements and they looked like they belonged in the ocean. I will say that, you know, King Triton was very stiff the whole time, and even when he swam, it was very boom, 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 like it was very stiff. And then Halle Bailey as Ariel, she had these weird, funky kind of, I don't know, it was just really weird to watch. Sometimes the motions were weird. Um, the hair flowing in the ocean was actually good, but sometimes I thought it was too much flowing. Ariel's hair was, I mean, it was flowing a little too much for me, but I do think that that was at least decent. Her fin on her tail, I liked the motions of her fin. It was very calming and it wasn't overwhelming. But other than that, the motions of the actual person was weird. Um, Melissa McCarthy did fine as Ursula, but if you I don't know if you kind of think about it, her whole body is basically CGI because of the tentacles and stuff, but her motions were more fluid and stuff. So, I wonder if the actors knew how to swim. I don't know, but I will say she got in really good shape for this movie, though. I will say that. It was just weird, and I've seen some videos of them, like how what they did with Avatar: Way of Water. They actually are in the water to film these movies, just with weird suits on them so that they can CGI these things in. So that was the only thing I would say. Some of it was just the motions weren't as fluid. They weren't as often either, as they are in the animated version. But overall, it was really, really decent. I really, really liked it. Let us know. And Halle Bailey, Nick, had amazing singing. Melissa McCarthy's singing was really good in this movie too. Now I don't know how much of that was, auto-tuned or anything, but I thought she had a really good voice as well. A lot of people are criticizing Awkwafina. She did not sing very well in this movie, but I don't think she was supposed to. I think that's why they played it off kind of funny and wrote her a rap type song. But overall, really impressed with the original songs and how they did those. So that is all I have for you. I wanted to do this live because it was a lot to talk about, and um I had to get it out because it was all fresh on my head in my head. So if you've seen it, let us know what you think. If you haven't seen it, but you've kind of heard about it, let us know what you think too, to see if you're gonna go see it in the theater, if you'll just wait for it to come on Disney Plus. And thank you so much for spending your Fridays with us. Thanks to Will for doing some dad duty tonight so I could do this. It's been a long time. And our countdown is 9 days till Disney. We will be there for about a week and a half, a little less than that. Dawn and Jeff are driving in, and Will and myself and the two boys are flying in. And so we are really excited to be going to Disney. It's very, very soon, 9 days. I can't wait. We're getting in packing mode. And so make sure, if you don't like or subscribe to our channel, please do that right now. We already have several live streams that are up that Dawn has put up. A couple of them are driving streams, and then one is from the Epcot Flower and Garden Fest. We will try to do as much as we can while we're there, but again, we'll have an infant and a 4-year-old, so we may divide and conquer at some points, but make sure to ring the bell so you know when we go live. Also, make sure to check out my TikTok page, my Instagram page, and my Facebook page, Jillian Bone, Mickey Travels, or I think it's Mickey Travels, Jillian Bone. Either way, I have had a super busy day quoting people for next year, for 2024, because all of that came out, and I quoted my first and booked my first trip with the dining plan. So I'm so excited. There's 2 dining plans that came back. So if you don't know anything about that, please, please, please make sure that you use a travel agent. Some of our agents were booking yesterday on hold with Disney for hours and hours and hours. So if you don't want to do all that work, I am here to help you. Please refer anybody to me. I will be happy, happy, happy to help them. Dawn posted my link there so you can find out more information. Please follow the Hitchhiking Bones on Instagram, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Dawn also does Twitter as well, so make sure you follow us on all of that. Will and his mom go live every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Central Time. That's Texas time. So make sure to catch them every Tuesday night. They have a couple more streams before we go to Disney. And as always, there is always room for one more, and hurry back. Bye, everybody.